UFC 298 is happening next weekend, and in the co-main event, we have Robert Whittaker taking on Paulo Costa. Now, this matchup is very interesting because Robert Whittaker, known to be one of the best middleweights in UFC history, is coming off a brutal knockout loss to the now new UFC champion Dricus du Plessis, and he is facing a very questionable fighter, a fighter who has had a lot of ups and downs in the UFC, Paulo Costa. This matchup is going to be very interesting, and I'm going to give my take on who I think is going to win and how I think this fight will play out. But before we get into it, be sure to like, comment who you think will win, and subscribe for more content like this. Now let's get into it. So in the co-main event, Robert Whittaker, ranked 3rd in the middleweight division, taking on Paulo Costa, ranked 6th in the middleweight division. Now there are so many questions in this fight. One, is Robert Whittaker going to come back the same after that brutal knockout loss to Dricus du Plessis? My answer to that question is yes. We saw Robert Whittaker get brutally knocked out by Israel Adesanya when they first fought in the second round, and we thought, well, that's the end of Robert Whittaker. You know, he was young at the time, so there was hope for maybe he'll come back, and that's what happened, and he did. And after he got brutally knocked out by Israel Adesanya, he went on a crazy win streak. He beat Darren Till, beat Jared Cannonier, beat Kevin Gastelum, rematched with Israel Adesanya, had a very, very close fight, lost, then beat Marvin Vettori, and then got brutally knocked out by Dricus du Plessis. I think we will see the old Robert. I think Robert is a very skillful fighter. He's smart, and he knows how to play his own game. When things go wrong and he's fighting a tough opponent, especially someone like Paulo Costa, who really just has strength and size behind him, I think Robert Whittaker can win this. He has the skills. He has the mindset. He is someone that can easily go back to what his basics are, and that will win him these type of fights, right? The next question in this fight is Paulo Costa. Is Paulo Costa, one, going to show up for this fight? Paulo Costa has had 3 canceled bouts since his last fight against Luke Rockhold. Paulo Costa has not fought since August of 2022. The last time Paulo Costa has fought a ranked opponent in the UFC and won was Yoel Romero in 2019. Paulo Costa does not have a single win on his record right now against a current UFC fighter. His last win against Luke Rockhold, not in the UFC. Last win before that was against Yoel Romero. He's in Bellator or whatever. Now, I'm not trying to say Paulo Costa is trash and, you know, his record is garbage, because it's not that bad, right? He's 14-2. He's fought pretty good fighters. He's won, you know, with some knockouts. He's not terrible. Now, the fact that Paulo Costa is ranked 6th in the middleweight division is kind of surprising. After he got brutally knocked out against Israel Adesanya, Paulo Costa weighed in a lot against Marvin Vettori, missed weight multiple times. They had a fight at, I think, 205. He got beat pretty bad against Marvin Vettori, and then fights a guy who's basically coming off a 2-year layoff, Luke Rockhold, right? 2-3 year layoff against Luke Rockhold, an old Luke Rockhold, and barely won that fight. Barely won that fight. I think Paulo Costa has a lot of problems and issues, and we just glorify the fact that he's this amazing fighter because he's big and strong and had that crazy fight with Yoel Romero. I think that is the only reason why we look at Paulo Costa and think, oh, he's amazing. Besides the Yoel Romero win, which was a very, very close win, there's nobody on a skill level as good as Robert Whittaker that we can look at on his record and say, this is why Paulo Costa can beat Robert Whittaker. There's no fighter that he has fought besides Yoel Romero that we can look at on his record and say, this fighter, it compares to Robert Whittaker. The skill for skill, it's up there. I think this is another reason why Robert Whittaker will beat Paulo Costa. I think Paulo Costa is good, don't get me wrong. But every time he has fought a true top 5 middleweight, he's lost. Right? He lost to Israel Adesanya, got brutally knocked out, and then had that god-awful fight against Marvin Vettori, which wasn't even at middleweight. He was trying to get out of that fight. Paulo Costa was supposed to fight Robert Whittaker the first time at UFC 284, and that fight fell out. After that, Paulo Costa was supposed to fight Ikram Aliskerov. After the Robert Whittaker fight, that fight fell off. Then he was supposed to fight Hamzat. That fight fell off because he had staph. It is kind of weird how we keep on giving Paulo Costa multiple chances at, great contender fights, right? If Paulo Costa beats Robert Whittaker, he's easily up there with a rematch with Israel Adesanya, or maybe fight Sean Strickland and then gets the belt. Like, it's crazy to me. I don't necessarily think Paulo Costa is the worst UFC fighter in the middleweight division, but I do see a lot of holes in his game, and I feel like he relies a lot on his size and his strength, which, like, you should in a way because you are a big fighter. But when you look at the skill for skill, when you look at the striking, the grappling, the mental part of the game, and how these fighters fight, I don't necessarily see a way of Paulo Costa beating Robert Whittaker. I just think Robert Whittaker is too smart. He's too agile. He flows a lot better than Paulo Costa. I just don't see Paulo Costa really doing anything besides landing a couple of good shots. But now we could go back to the first question in this video. Is Robert Whittaker going to come back from that brutal knockout loss? Is he going to come back, still moving fast, or is he going to be hesitant on the punching? Is he going to be scared of getting hit now? Now, these are questions that will only be answered during the fight, but now I am predicting Robert Whittaker to brutally beat up Paulo Costa. I think he picks him apart. I think you see the tools of Robert Whittaker come out of his bag. I think you see a lot of leg kicks. He's going to jab him a lot. You're going to see a lot of movement. And I want y'all to pay attention to the fact that Paulo Costa will not be able to move in this fight. Robert Whittaker is very good at angle work and cutting his opponent off and really forcing the fight to be held at multiple points. It's not just we're going to brawl it out. Now, we could be wrong. Robert Whittaker could look terrible and he's not the same after the knockout and he gets beat. But I think the chances of Paulo Costa beating Robert Whittaker right now at this point, even after 2 knockout losses from Robert Whittaker, I think the chances are very, very low. I've never been a person to really favor Paulo Costa a lot in his fights. Even against someone like Hamzat Chimaev, half the size of Paulo Costa, it's hard for me to look at Paulo Costa convincingly and think this is a man that can beat anybody. I think Paulo Costa has a lot of holes in his game. I think when he fights fighters like a Robert Whittaker or Marvin Vettori or Israel Adesanya, the fighters that have skills and departments and that they don't really rely a lot on their attributes, I think he loses. Paulo Costa is an entertaining fighter. He is strong, he is big, but that is all he is. He's not a skillful fighter, and that is something that we have to recognize when he is facing opponents like Robert Whittaker or Israel Adesanya or Marvin Vettori, right? Paulo Costa isn't as skilled as Robert Whittaker, and that is why Paulo Costa will lose this fight. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know who you think will win, and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video.